So, welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on reimagining service desk through Service Collaborator. Joining us today is not one but two product managers. So we have an extra addition from the original slide. So welcoming us today is John Stevens Hall, who's going to get us started. He'll do his introduction shortly. And then also joining him is Harshad and Srini, who will be running some of the slides today and sharing what we've got in Service Collaborator. And also we have Ankita that's going to be helping to answer your questions in the Q&A. Before I hand over to John, just a couple of reminders that there is the Q&A section of Zoom. If you do have any questions during the presentation, please put them into the Q&A. We will have roughly around 15 minutes or so at the end where we'll take some of your questions live, and we'll also be talking about some of the demo and things that we want to share with you today. So you will remain muted until we get towards the end. With that, John, I know there's a lot of content that we want to share today, so I'm going to hand over to you to get us started.
There we go. Sorry, Zoom was being a little uncooperative with the unmute button there. Thank you very much, Samantha. Thanks everyone for joining us. This is going to be a really interesting session. I know because this is what we're going to be talking about today is one of our most important AI agents, one of our major pieces of investment in the people who I think probably use our software most during the course of their working day, which is service desk agents and frontline support people. So very exciting session, and it's great having Harshad and Srini here, two of the very best people to talk about this technology. So firstly, let's just have a quick as a quick starting point, I just want to just cover the formalities. We are going to be showing some roadmap information today. So if you've seen us present roadmaps before, you've probably seen this slide before. Essentially, we're asking you to not capture this, share it widely and externally. We can always follow up with a session if you need to convey this to any of your colleagues who can't make it today. Secondly, when we do talk about futures, we are doing so in the best possible faith. Think, yeah, this is our expectations of what's going to be released, but things can change. Okay, so that's all this slide means, and hopefully that's the most boring slide in the presentation, or I'm really not doing my job well. So let's talk about those people that we want to be helping with this technology. There's a lot of hype around AI right now. A lot of vendors will be talking a lot about AI to you, I'm sure. We're talking about the service desk, the support agents, and the things we can do to make their day substantially better. And in doing that, I put together a few interesting quotes that I think really resonate with all the people I've met out there in the field. I see some very familiar names. It's great to have some both people both new and that I've met before. But a lot of you I know work in these environments, and I don't think this stat is is outrageous at all. How many of us spend a huge amount of time just trying to find the right information, whether that's the right email, whether that's the right shared document? This is a really big problem, and it impacts knowledge workers on frontline support roles in particular, because often they need to find the right policy, they need to find the right technical information. They don't want to have to reinvent every single fix, but getting to that information is not always easy. Secondly, why is it important? Well, they're under tremendous time pressure, and something that can happen when the call display on the wall is ringing, showing there's a big queue, and the drop rate is increasing and the wait time is increasing. There's a lot of pressure to get on to the next thing. And what that can often mean, I'm sure any of you who've worked in service desk environments have probably seen full stop or fixed it, or just simple little resolutions that create an entry that lets that mandatory field be fulfilled, but doesn't add any ongoing value to the organization. As we really going to see, AI is going to benefit massively if we've got great resolution steps and documentation. But one of the great things is it can also help. We can create a real virtuous cycle that helps us get that down in the first place. Third quote, this is probably one of the most impactful quotes on my career. Seriously, I had a service desk agent tell me this face to face in Europe, and they were talking about the gamble. They described it as gambling. And they said, I'm gambling because if I go searching for knowledge, that might really improve one of my two key metrics. I get better first time fix rate. But if I don't find anything, it's immediately detracting from my other major metric, which is my call handling time. So do I take that bet? And as you've probably seen with our technology like Smart Recorder, we've tried to take away that gamble by pulling knowledge to people. What you'll see with Service Collaborator is the next step, the real next level of this. Let's help people achieve better results on both of these metrics at once. And then finally, just I went looking. I got ChatGPT to go and find me some quotes. I said, go out there and keep an eye out. And it went and trawled Reddit, and I thought this was brilliant. This quote. It's so much the life of so many people in IT, which is they're probably seen as doing a great job if everything stays working. And as this quote says, keeping things just good enough. But unfortunately, that's not very fulfilling. A lot of people in these roles are incredibly clever people and they build great experience of systems and processes and problem solving and the human dynamics of IT support. And the only limiting factor to those skills is very often time. So we want to help people get out of the cycle that this person's describing, give them that opportunity to really do better. So let's have a think. What is the day of a frontline support person, service desk agent, maybe a level one or two person? They spend we spent hundreds and hundreds of hours sitting with these teams. We love doing ride-alongs. We like sitting with these groups, and that's what led to things like Smart Recorder. And you see this all day. It's very, very difficult, for example, if you've just joined an organization, to know that organizational hierarchy, to understand where particular tickets could go. But as we know, if a ticket's assigned to the wrong place, that's very expensive. It can lead to that thing sitting in a queue for multiple days before it gets to the right person. And that doesn't help anybody. The customer's not happy. The team who eventually gets it 2 or 3 hours or days down the line is not happy. No, it doesn't work for anyone. So we got to help that. Knowledge search. I mean, we've done our best to optimize knowledge search. We've done great, I think, with things like Smart Recorder to pull knowledge to people, but you're never finished until that retrieval is perfect. And AI is really really much, much more advanced in the way it can compress knowledge and bring you the right insights to the right problem straight away and give you the sources. So again, taking steps out that a human would otherwise manually have to do just to get to the point where they can really deliver value. Other things, the resolution notes we've talked about, the need to find the right person to help. Most IT organizations do not really work in a very linear process way where things get assigned from one person to another, and that's the end of the task for the first person, and the entirety of the task now falls on the second person. We work in teams, we have intercommunication, sometimes being able to understand the best people to get things to much quicker or to bring into a situation is going to be decisive. And of course, finally, my supervisor needs answers. If any of you have ever been foolish enough and clever enough to know how, to reveal to the company that you're very good at extracting insights from data, you probably know that those insights are then demanded on a very regular basis. People need quick answers up the chain, but quick answers aren't often quick. And that can be another big impactful thing on people's day. So when we talk about things like Service Collaborator, we're talking about agentic AI in IT. At BMC Helix, there's nobody talking about how we can do this to take people out of the system, because ultimately support quality it creates its own intrinsic value. We're not trying to sort of this should not be a race to the bottom. What this is doing is about taking those professionals yourselves, the people who work with you or for you, or managing you, and giving them the ability to shift from this mode here where they're doing a good job of a bunch of things but they never quite get to the higher value stuff because there's always the latest firefight. We want to get to the point where the low value, low complexity stuff, the easy but the easy work, or but not exciting work, the work that doesn't create ongoing intrinsic value, is just that's the stuff we can automate, because then all that support expertise, all that experience and problem solving ability and teamwork can be working up here to make things better. And you'll see some of the things that Service Collaborator can do when we show you some snippets of it in action later on, which I think really demonstrate that. It's up leveling people to somewhere where they can think, oh, if only I could if I could follow this plan and gather this information and take these steps, then I'm going to be doing a far better job in support. And that's what we're helping you to do with this agent. So just a little more context before I bring Srini in, and we'll talk a bit more about the technical background to this. Service Collaborator, well, it's like you are here on the map. It's up in the top there. But we want to emphasize this is part of an already comprehensive and rapidly expanding set of AI agents. Now, AI agents they're the new megapixel wars in marketing. You'll see vendors out there saying we've got 1,000 or 1,000,000 agents. And often when you scratch the surface, those things are not really agents, they're just features with a bit of Gen AI. When we look at things like Service Collaborator, you'll see we'll put a case today that we're building out a multi-skilled assistant for technical experts to work with. And all these other agents are very much the same. They're built using BMC Helix's deep knowledge, our deep experience, our deep listening, all those hundreds and thousands of hours watching and listening to customers, because we understand this industry and we want to build tools to work with you on that. So it couldn't be a better time right now to bring in Srini Ramamurthy to talk about the background to this, some of the architecture that makes this stuff possible. So Srini, good to have you here. Have we got you on audio? Yeah.
I'm Srini Ramamurthy. I'm a product development architect for Helix ITSM. Thanks, John. I mean, before we dwell into what agentic AI is, I think probably it is a better idea to understand what an agent itself does, right? Like, I mean, think of an AI agent as a smart teammate that we have that can sense, think, and act like us. No matter the complexity of any agent that we have, all agents have a similar or a same five core building blocks. The first building block of our agent is perception. The agent sees the word, it reads the line, it analyzes the query that we present to it, it listens to the voice or speech that we feed into, it analyzes images, it pulls data from APIs. So it pretty much does everything that we could do in everyday work, right? That's the core first building blocks of an agent, AI agent.
And we were talking about how we could convey, weren't we, the types of AI agent. And I thought I'd put this one in just to kind of almost just illustrate, unfortunately, the place where a lot of the industry is. And this is I've alluded to this already, where you sort of have vendors who say, we've got thousands of AI agents. When we scratch the surface of those agents, right? I mean, what it is they've taken an existing feature or a function and kind of put a bit of generative AI on so you can chat with it and say, hey, that's an agent. So this agent does this one small task, and that's an agent. And that's not our approach. I mean, this is that megapixel wars thing where if you remember the era of digital cameras emerging, people stopped competing on quality and they just found a metric that sounded impressive. So if we put a 40 megapixel sensor in a mobile phone, then that's got to be 4 times as good as a 10 megapixel sensor. And that was how marketing went. And it was rubbish because that phone still had a plastic lens and a tiny sensor and was pretty awful. So we're seeing, I think, the same trend. Whereas, Srini, if I bring you in and we talk about, bring you back in here, sorry. We'll talk about the real world of proper AI agents. Let's talk about the next category here.
Yeah. So, I mean, you rightly said, I mean, I think we all started with it. Probably we are evolving faster than we could even imagine in terms of how AI itself is moving. I mean, as I said, like probably the core basic building blocks of AI agent doesn't change, but then it evolves at a faster pace. So perception, and once the AI agent perceives or infers what we have fed into, it then gives us reasoning, which is a pretty important what I call as magic that AI provides us. This is the thinking step where agent figure out what to do with all the tools that it has available to its disposal. Then next, each agent is also provided with a memory which it uses, and then it tries to feed in each of the tools with a memory of what it has inferred in the previous steps. Next to the action itself, this is where all our tools are called. It could be sending a message, it could be retrieving a document, it could be updating the system, and finally the feedback. I mean, this is what is more important. I mean, it is not an one-time execution flow, but a loop that executes again and again till we get the desired results. Going into the types of agent, probably, I mean, the agentic pattern is evolving very fast. even with BMC, in our earlier releases, we had a Service Collaborator agent as a React agent. So what is a React agent? React stands for reasoning and acting. So an agent gets a user query. It reasons step by step, thinking about what the query is. It thinks out loud in a natural language, deciding on what to do next. When it needs more info, it calls tools and APIs, like it does a database query or a web search or anything to retrieve the data it requires. And then it observes the results at each steps, reasons again, and possibly calls more tools. This loop continues until it can confidently respond. And this React agents work pretty well for most of the tasks. But each of these reasoning steps requires a long LLM calls, which could tend to make the React agents little slower.
And also, of course, that burns more tokens, doesn't it, as well? Because that trial and error nature of them is going to keep iterating until it's happy.
Yeah, that's where it's slower and it's costlier for our end users to use this. So, and that's where we invested our logics and efforts to move from an React agent to an plan and execute agent. It is also an agentic AI pattern. In plan and execute, the agent first makes a complete plan of what it is going to do. And since in most of our cases, the tools that it will interact are deterministic in nature, so it can actually do that. So when a user query comes in, the agent uses LLM. It creates a structured plan. It breaks down the tasks into steps, choosing which tools to use and the order of execution. And executor module follows this plan. It then takes the plan that is generated by the GPU, the GPT or the LLM, then it starts executing. And in this executor step, it can further, if required, would make an LLM call, or it would just use the data or the memory that is available from the previous steps as in what was inferred, and then feeds into the tool usage. Why it is useful? It really shines for deterministic tasks because there is a very little LLM and token usage here, and it gives you a predictable execution pattern always. And since the plan is always made upfront, you exactly know what will happen. And it is very critical for IT workflows, right? Like where we know what we want to do. So let's
don't we? Yeah.
Let's drill into a simple example. An example wherein our AI agent gets a simple task or a query. Hey, give me a summary of all open critical incidents that are assigned to my group and suggest relevant articles for each of these incidents. Once we feed in, once this query feeds into the agent first does an inference task for making a plan. Here, the two things that are important. The LLM is suggesting the agent that when an agent asks, hey, this is my query, prepare a plan and give me the next action that needs to be done. It is not just giving you, the LLM is not just giving the plan, but it also gives the tools to invoke, the order in which it has to be invoked, and also the context from each step that needs to be fed to the next step. So in this case, when the query comes in, it is now broken down into, hey, I need to first look into my groups. Agent says, hey, I don't understand what is this my group. So the LLM first says, hey, first get the user groups, support groups. Then you need to query incidents here. So fetch incidents which are open and are assigned to the groups that you got from the previous step and are also in open status. So again, here, the status open, it has to understand and infer because open itself is not a single status. and then it returns. Then the next plan would be to return the list of tickets to probably summarize each ticket. And then from the summary of each ticket, it has to then go fetch the matching knowledge article. And then once it fetches the knowledge article, it has to summarize both the incident and the knowledge suggestions together. And this is how it starts making the plan. And the plan is fed to an executor. The executor has a set of tools that are available for its execution. We have tools and toolkits. We have Ticket Toolkit, which consists of get incidents or get changes, get problems, kind of a retrievers. We also have some of the way wherein you can add work log entries or anything. These are all part of the Ticket Toolkit. There are other tools like a search tool or an MFS tool, which does a multi-form search for folks who are familiar with multi-form search. There are tools fetches related incidents, related changes, or related documents that are required. And there is a knowledge retriever tool which goes to our vector database, finds an similarity search, and gets the knowledge fragments that are applicable to the incident. So using all these tools, the executor executes, and then at each point in the results, there is a feedback step that goes in to loop through all the tasks. And once all the tasks are complete, it then again, if required, any inferences, furthermore inferences like summarization or preparing any document that is fed to the LLM. The LLM does that and returns the response to the end user.
I mean, that's a really important point about BMC Helix GPT, isn't it? We supply a huge amount of tools out of the box. I mean, you don't see them necessarily when you're interacting because this stuff is behind the scenes in the Helix GPT manager. But I think what some vendors would call agents are actually tools, and our agents have the knowledge. And this is where we put a lot of our effort is, we have all this past data on service and operations management. We have this huge record of the thought processes of problem solvers who, humans, as they go in and bring their expertise and their discovery skills to these tasks. And we can use that information to build the intelligence in, the fine-tuned data model, as we call it, that augments the LLMs with this ability to build a great plan, execute a great plan. So, the quality of output of BMC Helix GPT is always going to be, I think, differentiating and market leading because it has such a great toolkit and a great ability to execute on that toolkit because of the knowledge of how these things work. So Trini, thanks so much. It's always great to hear you. And we are talking perhaps about having a much more technical deep dive as a separate webinar, because there's so much. If you're really interested in the kind of the back end of how Helix GPT is implementing agentic AI and how these things are evolving and working, then I think Srini is going to be the perfect person to really go into detail with you. So we'll look to set something up, I think, in future. And for those of you who are interested in the architecture and the potential of the back end, you can do things like build innovation studio processes and have those invoked by the agents, or have them invoke agents. So really, it's intensely capable out of the box, but the sky's the limit really when we start imagining how individual customers are going to incorporate it into the things that their unique organizations do. It's an exciting platform. So thank you very much. Harshad, maybe it's a good time, as the product manager, to talk about one of your latest one of your babies in your stable of agentic agents, which is Service Collaborator. Having set the scene and talked about the problems and describe, given some explanation as to the philosophy of agentic AI in BMC Helix. Let's talk about that day in the life again.
Yep, absolutely, John. Thank you very much. So I am Harshad Borgaonkar. I am the product manager, as John said. I'm going to reiterate some of the things that the panelists have spoken earlier. So this is the day in the life of a service desk agent that we keep hearing from all our customers. The point here is that this is the work that our agents are doing today, which is manual, which is mundane, which is repetitive. Again, it points out very beautifully to the slide that John shared, that this is the work that we keep doing all the time, and we never get to the higher value work, right? And when you talk about these personas, when you talk about service desk agents, service desk managers, Today we hear, I mean, the overarching theme that we hear about is that we need to empower our agents, right? They're always busy with the mundane, repetitive work, which is also time sensitive, as John said. Anytime that they search in looking for knowledge articles is the time that they lose in servicing the customer, is the time that they increase in terms of MTTR, right? So there is obviously a preference to quick answers. There is also the need to be less reliant on a few people to reduce key person dependencies and to get quick answers. And the
There's
one
always
message,
in there who's sort of there's the leading lights of the service desk, the most experienced people who often I always think
yeah,
you can spot them because there's wheel tracks in the carpet where people have pushed their chairs back to go tap tap tap. Hey, can you help
yes,
with this? Which is, they're very
absolutely.
effective at helping those people, but that's not an efficient scenario
That is not an
for
efficient scenario.
oh,
And these people would be called the SMEs, right? So there would be, and then the ratio of the SMEs to your novice service desk agents is reducing, right? So we see less SMEs for more number of service desk agents, right? And there has to be a less reliance. There has to be a scenario where there is less reliance on SMEs or on agents. Your service desk managers, if he or she needs to get answers, they should get it quickly without relying on an agent, without relying on SMEs, right? And in doing so, they should be on top of what's happening. So we need to provide them tools and technologies to be able to do that, right? And where do we stand with respect to that, right? So this is the answer. This is the service collaborator, and this is a tool. This is an agent which really facilitates, collaboration between multiple personas, between multiple teams, right? And it's easier to build a team. It's very hard to get them working together, right? And to get them working together and to provide them tools means that you have to really look at the day in the life. You really have to look at what can be automated, what can be made easier, so that they can transition to the more high value added work, right? So we'll start with service collaborator, and we look at some of these skills that really
mm,
enable service collaborator, right? So this is the first skill. I mean, this is what we call the intelligent routing, right? Now, how about an AI based auto assignment to predict support groups on tickets? And again, this could be configurable. This could be on your summary or your description or your other attributes, right? But the advantage here is that if you have a new agent in your service desk, he or she doesn't have to really guess what the support group is, because in doing so, this might result in multiple hops in getting to the right support group, right? And this is one reason why tickets breach their SLEs, because the time it takes to reach the right support group is the time that is lost in this whole process. And by the time you reach to the right support group, you've lost valuable time, and you have less time than the support group, than the support guy who has to work on this ticket on the incident has less time to resolve it, right? So let's look at how this really solves our purpose here. We've got a quick video here. And so this is a typical incident, right? So this is a typical incident where your remote desktop is doesn't open for whatever reasons, right? And I just look at the recommendations from my AI engine to find the right support group, right? So this takes into consideration the past historical tickets of similar nature, and then it is able to provide me the recommendations. It is able to provide me the right support group that can work on this, that can be assigned to this particular incident here. And this happens in a
that's really worth
flash.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning. I mean, with some customers who haven't yet used Service Collaborator may have used a previous AI approach to this based on machine learning. So we did have an option where you could use machine learning to set categories, and then from those categories drive an assignment to a team. And that was a popular feature, but already you're probably hearing there's admin work involved in that because I have to have the category mappings, I have to have them mapped to the teams, and that's admin work and it's ongoing admin work. Whereas just to emphasize with Service Collaborator, we still tell it what data to take into account, but that's a one-time thing, as you said, take into account the description or the originating customer or whatever, and then that can be then it basically trains itself. So it watches the patterns, it watches the data, it self-corrects. If it does make a wrong assignment and you recorrect it, then that feeds back into the process and causes enables self-correction. So you're getting the outcome in a much crisper way without all that admin that you need in a more traditional machine learning mapping through categories to assignment. So it's a nice it's a big time saver for the administrator as well, which should be popular, I think, because we all love messing around with category mappings. I mean, what a fun job, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the
Well said.
next, yeah, that brings us
Yeah.
on to the next one.
Yeah. And this is probably, our most favorite agent, our most favorite skill here, right? And I talk for the team here. I talk for the entire team that is on the call here, right? It could be John, it could be Srini, it could be Ankita, it could be Sumit. This is our most favorite agent here. And you will see why this is our favorite agent, right? Because this is really, our co-pilot, our way to do quick searches, and get quick answers, right? And I think the whole goal of this is to become, or the vision for this is to become the Google of ITSM search, right? Um, and then, this starts when you basically have an incident and you're looking for a quick resolution. I think John mentioned the point that to get to the right knowledge articles can at times be a gamble, right? You might gamble and your way to get to the right knowledge articles. And this is where the Ask Helix GPT tab it comes to the rescue, right? So it provides you succinct answers to the incident at hand while looking at the most relevant knowledge articles from your knowledge repositories. And then it also provides you some sources. So this is our way to say that this is all based in your enterprise knowledge. We ring fence it to your enterprise knowledge, so you know that this tool is not hallucinating, right? And you can always go and verify the sources here, right? So this is like a run book that you get to really solve your incident very quickly, right? And because this is a run book that you get, you don't have to rely on the SMEs. As John said, they always take the chair back. It's difficult to find them on the floor.
Give the
you
carpet
know
a break.
and this could be your SME. This could be your SME which is available to you at your fingertips, right? So we are bringing your SME in your window. This is a single pane of glass, right, by the way, for you to get all the answers.
I think it's also interesting to note here that one of our data scientists, when I was talking about agentic AI and generative AI in the early days when we were investing in it, and suddenly we had these amazing data scientists working for us who are great people to talk to. They're often mind-blowingly clever on this stuff. But he summarized it as generative AI is a really great knowledge compressor. So what's happening here is often, the actual answer might lie in more than one knowledge article. We're in complex environments, things fail in complex ways and novel ways. And one of the challenges has always been that I might find some information in one knowledge article, some in another. This is consolidating it in the context of this ticket. So if the information happens to be in a couple of knowledge documents and a SharePoint file and something else, you get a succinct summarized answer. And then we know as well for that data integrity, for that provenance is a good word for this. You can follow through to the original sources and validate that too. So again, it's not just about finding the right knowledge. It's well, not just about finding the right artifacts of knowledge. If that's artifacts plural, it's also about saving you having to click through each of them and try and kind of deduce which bits are the most relevant from each one. And again, this is saving minutes at a time, maybe if you're on a service desk, this could be the difference between 20 calls at a 50% fixed rate and 40 calls at an 80% fixed rate or more. That's the kind of thinking we have here. How well can we help these people perform by providing them better access to the information that's out there anyway? And that's one of the great powers of AI.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this is again what John, you alluded to earlier. We have knowledge within BMC Helix, is what our customers keep saying, right? You've got knowledge within BMC Helix, you've got our data within BMC Helix, right? And how could you really provide us tools that can really make our lives easier, right? So if I'm an agent today, I don't really have to work or slog my way for a couple of days to get answers to complex questions which might be needed by my service desk managers, right? Or if I want to just see all the incidents that are assigned to me or all the incidents for a particular service, there has to be a tool, there has to be a co-pilot type tool which allows me to get these quick answers, right? It is something which could be cross-product, cross-module, a simple UI agnostic interface where it allows me to get quick answers, right? And the power of this is really, evident in the next slide where we have a small demo of this thing, right? So what
Absolutely.
used to take you minutes, or what used to take you days is something which can be available to you within a couple of minutes, right? It starts with, let's say, listing all the open critical issues here. This is a very simple query, and there are a couple of options to do this, right? You can go through your share ticket console, you can go through your dashboard to look at this, but then, this is also the other way that we are allowing our users to query on this. But then what happens when you have complex questions like these, right? When you say group those issues into common themes, provide a summary of each theme and those sort of things. These are the questions that your service desk manager keeps asking, right? So this is the way that we can form clusters on the issues, right? This is all real time, as you see here, right? This is happening in real time. It saves a lot of agent time, as John said. So now you are free to do the higher value added work here, right? So you can look at the common themes. You can basically, cluster your incidents by these common themes, right? And then, of course, if there are further questions, this is a whole chain of thought here, right? For each of these things, please provide an overview of the work that has been done so far, right? And propose an action plan, for ongoing work. And this is really in the realms of what your service desk managers keep asking you all the time. This might take, days to get to that report, right? But now we have a more Google type interface. And again, this is one of our favorite tools here because this really simplifies the way work is done today, with agentic, right? So this is not just AI for the sake of AI. This is getting tools to help teams that are working on these tools. And this is a way for us to simplify the whole process and bring in efficiency and increase productivity of our agents, right? Um, Essentially, this would really reduce your MTTR. This would increase your CSAT. This would be things that you could take, in order to simplify or your whole process, right? And then, of course, this goes on, right? The queries would go on. And again, this is where we think that this would take days to answer, right? This is something which might take, hours, if not days to answer. But with the whole introduction of agent take, you can get quick answers. So, this is like an executive assistant on everybody's desk, right?
I just love it. It is that tool that, in the case, for example, this might, as you said, this might be a service desk manager who's come in and been told, hey, you've got a lot of critical tickets today. You need to get your team on them. And how long would it normally take? How long is it going to take to click through every critical ticket or get someone to write a report or a summary and then think, okay, how are we going to group these into common themes? Because I can't assign 6 people to 15 critical tickets. I'd rather assign 6 people to 6 critical themes. And then how can I tell what's already been going on? Because I want to make decisions as to how to direct those people next. I've just described maybe a day's work, and we've just done it in a 2.5 minute demo video. And that's the absolute power of this feature is it's just a toolkit. It can do things we haven't even shown. So you might have seen we created action plans. If you tell it, just please could you write the relevant action plan to each ticket log, it'll do that. And we were having a lot of fun. And Kita, who's here answering some of the questions, we were working on an analyst response recently for one of the major analysts, and over again we were being asked about how to approach things with AI, and we're thinking, well, agentic chat could do that because it's got all this amazing, it knows the tickets, it knows how to answer them. It's just that, to me, it's that thing that takes your frontline service people to that next level we've talked about, because now they can think, instead of thinking, if only I could spend a bit of time grouping these and getting a situational update on that kind of group level and then assign out some tasks straight to the tickets. Well, they can do all that, but by the time they've had the time to do that, the situations have developed by a day and that information's out of date. So it's not if only anymore. They've got those tools now with this amazing thing. And I think everyone at BMC Helix is fed up with me acting like an excited puppy every time this particular feature comes up. But I've worked in service desks. I've worked with so many service desk people. I just know this is going to be huge, and it's really amazing. I think we conceived it more as a search tool, and it is a search tool. You'll see it's up here. You can go to the conventional search interface too, but it's so much more than a search tool, and very, very exciting. Anyway, so I'm doing my
Yeah.
puppy thing again. I better get back on track because we have a.
And then you're not the only puppy. I am also joined. I'm also joining you in the same puppy efforts, right? And so is Ankita. I can speak for her. Yeah. And then, again, there are some things about where you have an incident, which has activity logs, right? But then when it comes to entering resolution notes for these incidents, what we've seen, and this is the data that is talking to us, is that agents end up writing boilerplate sentences for resolution notes. Things like done or talked to the user, right? Which doesn't make sense at all given the rich, activity logs that you have in the incident, right? So how about finding those incidents which have a lot of work log entries, right? So again,
So
this
here
is what we will try and demonstrate here. We'll
classic
try and
incident.
find out incidents which has the most work log entries, and then let's see how this tool really works in the context of those incidents, right? So we're getting to the list of top incidents that has the most work log entries here, right? And
Our
the beauty
hardware
here is,
is
sorry,
talking
go
through
on.
15 tickets and counting the work logs, which is why it takes about 10 seconds, but it gets
It
there
takes
pretty,
about 10
gets there a lot
seconds.
more
Yes.
quicker than I would.
Yeah, absolutely. And now this is an incident which has a lot of work log entries. As you could see, there are 11 work log entries. They are meaningful here in the context of this incident, right? Now, when I go to resolve the incident as an agent, I don't really have to, figure out what was done to really resolve the incident. I can just select the status reason and I can just click on Ask Helix GPT here. And what it does really is that it looks at the work nodes here, the activity logs here, and provides me a nice, beautiful summary, as you could see here, which is the starting point, right? So, I can work with this, I can update this, I can refine this, or I can submit this as it is in the current form, right? But at least what it does is that it captures what I've done to really resolve the ticket. And then, mind you, some of these resolution notes also go back to your customers. So it has to be really meaningful in that context, right? Because, anything you enter here is also going to be useful subsequently in your root cause analysis when you cluster similar incidents. That's the other part. And that's the other part that you could do when you have work at hand, when you have time at hand, right? So this is the whole thing about how this is all put together in by GPT, right? Now, um, now this is one solution, and then again, one thing is that it could save maybe a couple of minutes, but then as John alluded to, all these couple of minutes, all these minutes add up in the eventual
Mm.
so thing, right?
And of
So it
course,
all
this,
adds up.
yeah, and the cool thing with this, of course, is this field has the most intrinsic value down the line, right? So I think we have all these fields that are very important when this ticket is being managed. But then once this is closed, it's filed, and the thing that is going to create ongoing value is this resolution, because this now gives us something that feeds into future scenarios. And guess what? It also feeds AI. So this is AI reinforcing AI, because the better the information we capture with each ticket, the better Agent Assist is going to perform in future when it creates that automatic, summary, and we can create better knowledge, we can create better future assistance. The better agentic chat can go if we say, well, let's find give me some examples of how this was resolved in the past, and agentic chat will go off and just do that because it's amazing. Have I mentioned that? And so this is double value. It saves the agent time, because a lot of the time the agents simply don't have time for this. It is that question: do I get to the next person in need on the phone, or do I spend a minute writing this? Well, that's a no-brainer. You worry about the people, but this takes away that problem and creates a really good piece of copy based, in this case, on a lot of interactions. And doesn't mean they have to, they can still spend a bit of time refining it if they have the time and they feel they need to, but it's just a really good solid answer on each ticket that creates this massive ongoing value as they accumulate. So again, feels like a relatively small piece of functionality in terms of the footprint in the product, but it's very, very big for the value to the organization. Okay.
Yep. One point to add in this feature, one very good point here is, Harshad, can you go back to the same slide? Okay. So the resolution note is actually a draft. When you click on the Ask Helix GPT, it will generate the resolution note, and that's a draft thing. And if at all I want to improvise this, okay, if you click again on Ask GPT, it will improvise. It will send the current content to LLM and ask models to refine it further, and it will give you another draft, improvised draft. And you can do this n number of times. I mean, unless you feel satisfied. Okay, yeah, I mean, this is really a good resolution note. So that's one more addition I just want to add.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would
Thank
demo
you so
that if
much.
this was before, because we wanted to make sure that this
Yes.
flowed quickly at the time. But yeah, that's a really great point. Thank you, Sumit.
Yeah, and I just talked through this functionality. So this is what we had earlier with IBM Watson, right? And in that we were really, relying on Watson to do the categorization of incidents into these, four categories: operational category, product category, resolution category, and resolution product category. But now, we have figured out a technology agnostic way to do this categorization. It is based on our AI foundation. So you can, either click on recommendations to get these categories, or you can have these categories autonomously populated when you click on save, right? And because this is now powered by our BMC Helix platform, this is also available, on-prem, in addition to being available on SaaS. So this is the latest edition of our previous feature that we had built and GA'd, I guess, 5 years back. So that's pretty much what we have in terms of service collaborators. You see a lot of skills for one agent, right? I think John talked about a lot of agents. So then multiply the number of skills by those agents. And that is the depth and breadth that we have when it comes to LXGPT. But, we're not resting there. We're not resting on our laurels. We've got some more things, on our roadmap. And then starting with, best action recommendations, where we are looking to simplify the whole way that you perform your issue diagnosis or take steps towards getting to an actionable troubleshooting steps, right? So here we are getting data from AI ops, we are getting data from external sources, also data from your incidents, your logs, and then providing you the best action recommendations on the incident, right? So this will
Tried and
be,
tested technology in AI ops, of course. This is something that
yes,
so AI ops users on the operations side are very familiar with this. It creates this, potentially, 5, 6 part, typically, plan of action based again on the great knowledge of previous resolutions that's captured in the systems we have.
absolutely. And then in terms of agent assist, we saw agent assist looking and digging up into the most relevant knowledge articles. And but then in addition to that, we also working to look up similar past incidents and their resolutions, right? So when that is put together with the knowledge articles, this would result in a more holistic resolution, if you will, that would help your agents to get to the right resolution quickly, right? And then lastly, in terms of agentic chat, we've seen a lot of queries that we support today, but then we're also looking for supporting complex queries, the likes of which, are something that are very difficult to put together. And it could be, and an example of that could be, show me the MTTR uh, changes over this month compared to the last 3 months, right? And then you basically have the MTTR for this month for your service, for your area, and you compare that with the last 3 months of MTTR, right? So you basically then to kind of drill down into what are the reasons if the MTTR has increased or if it is decreased, look at the factors that has allowed you to do so. A popular feature that we have now today in our roadmap is about translating incidents into multiple languages. And this is very popular when you have service desks that operate in multiple countries that work in multiple languages, right? And then, of course, we are working on autonomous actions. This is something which will allow us to, do things like do follow-ups quickly, delegate authority in cases where they have to be delegated. So there are a lot of these autonomous actions that we're going to provide OOTP out of the box in the coming 6 to 12 months, right? Along with agentic dashboard. So agentic dashboard is a mechanism for us to track the outcomes of Helix GPT use cases. And we are very much aware that the conversation will now shift from having agents, having skills to show me the ROI of these agents and skills, right? And because that is something which we expect, we're already working on that. And then lastly, there are a few things around graphical response where text might be a bit boring. So how about giving you a response in a pie chart, right? Or how about giving you the same response in a bar graph, right, for the same question, right? And again, this would be done autonomously by the React agent that Srini talked about, right? And then React agent is very smart. It would determine if it has to use some tools like your graphs, your dashboards to give you that graphical response as against giving you a verbal response or a text-based response, right? The last thing here on this slide is around sentiment analysis. One thing we want to do is, we want to look at if we can automate the customer feedback on the incidents, post incidents, right? And also, the customer response, the customer sentiment while logging the incident, right? So these are things that we could do to identify shifts in trends, have a database, CSAT, which also, kind of augments our traditional CSAT as well. So a lot of interesting features that we have on our roadmap. Again, as John said, this is really the art of the possible. We are looking at things that could really, kind of drive innovation for our customers.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time, and every time you say you're going to make agentic chat even better, I think I can't wait to play with that. So that's great. It's all great. Thank you. The other thing to bear in mind, of course, this is not, one of the things about our agentic AI, another differentiator for BMC is we're including agentic capabilities in our standard license tiers. This is not like an extra set of SKUs or anything. The agents are available, across, there are agents available regardless of your license tiers, and this is something that will, this is a very important thing for us. This is about making our products better for our current customers, and by all means, of course, follow up with us if you need to know more. So on that basis, we've got a couple of links here on the presentation which might be of interest for a bit more of a deep dive. The configuration backend. One of the reasons we like to share that is it gives you a bit of a look at some of the tools and things. If you're an administrator or someone who likes to look behind the scenes, I really recommend get in there and see how the prompts are built, see how the tools are built. Just the depth of functionality that supports this is I think it'll highlight how much investment BMC have put into this, but also the possibilities that you have to extend it to your own use cases. And I know many of you on the call have some really fascinating future plans around how far AI can take you. It's good to see, as I say, some familiar names whose stories are very interesting. The other thing, there's always some videos, and you can always come to us as well for more information. And on that basis, if we come to, oops, I've just I think completely the wrong thing. I just accidentally started one of those videos. That was clumsy of me. Where's my PowerPoint window gone? Very professional, John. Very professional. There we go. So that's the one I wanted to bring up rather than starting our YouTube videos. This is just to let you know we're in the middle of a series of customer roadshows, some of which are still upcoming. Now, obviously, I think I saw some of you in Melbourne. I know some of you probably got to Mumbai. Obviously, we're in this region now. We're starting to come to the end of sort of that series. But if you are, if you're based in other areas, if you're or you have colleagues in those areas, let them know as well, because what you get at these road shows, you get a lot of face-to-face time with BMC senior professionals from the technical and product organizations. You get a lot of hands-on visibility of the tools in our demo booths. There's actually a really fun game where you kind of work together to implement agentic capabilities in a model IT environment and see the outcome. It's an airport simulation, and you get to hear from customers, and that's always, to me, I think one of the most popular things is hearing the journey that your fellow customers are on. So that's something well worth trying to get involved with if you still have the chance to attend any of those, and if not, there will be more in future. So keep an eye out. And then finally, Samantha, did you want to kind of just cover this last slide?
Yeah, I will be sending obviously the slides out as well today. So we work very closely with our advocacy team. Some of you that did come to the roadshows may have seen this on the advocacy stand. Really important for us. And I know, John, you're very closely linked with our Gartner. I often get asked to put content forward. So Gartner's really important if you are working with some of our products. Certainly I'd expect if you're on this call today, we would love to get a review for you. Although it's important for BMC Helix, the reviews actually get posted and published by Gartner. So if you were to get yours published, it would be a gift voucher that would be given to you via Gartner. But obviously, we would love to get your feedback as well. We're also doing it now for Trust Radius. So both of those are important insights for us. So it's really just a plug to say we would like to get you to put your feedback forward. If you do get 5 minutes, either scan these codes. Otherwise, I'll be sending out the slides and asking you to just follow the links. And I think your team have been amazing at answering a load of questions.
I
I
was
went to
about
go
to give
and
a shout out to the team on the chat,
yeah,
especially. So I just
yeah.
went to see as I do at this point, what Q&A do we have to go and answer? And it's open 0, answered 25. I mean,
Well, we prepped ready. So any of you that went onto the Insight Finder, I think between both sessions we had 90. So actually, I think we've let the team off a little bit today because it was less questions. But I know we've got the second session. So if any of you do have colleagues that are based in America or the back end of EMEA, we are running this session again. It's exactly the same link. So if you signed up, please forward it to them. The more, the merrier. We will be running exactly the same session. So we will aim to get everything out from today in the next 24 hours or so. I will make sure all the questions are validated. We'll send the slides, we'll send the recording. We have also, as many of you will know, Knowledge Curator is next week. John will be joining, and so will Ankita to help support our other product manager, Anurag, who will be running that session. So we are literally blitzing the agents, and as and when new stuff come up, John and I will make sure we get that content out to you. Another quick plug as well is we're running Agentic Ascent. Some of you may have seen the QR code when you went to some of the road shows. That is going to be more of an overview for service management and also our ITOM space. I don't know, John, if you want to just give a little bit of background what you are working on with your on.
So that's going to be a webinar series that's similar to this, but Agentic Ascent is more roadmap focused. With these ones, we want to show you what you can get now. With Agentic Ascent, we want to give you a window on our strategy and our direction and some of the exciting things that are going on in the labs. So I think the two sit quite nicely together for practitioners, and keep an eye out for those. And they're starting in early September with a fortnightly webinar, and we'll be alternating between service management, operations management. Although to be honest, these days there's such a blur between the two in many cases that I think that'll be very interesting to be.
Yeah, and we'll run global sessions for that as well. I'm very mindful to look after you guys that are on today to make sure we run 2 sessions rather than you listen to recordings as well. And John just has to work both time zones.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's the reality
can we
of
just
working in a global company from Australia. It doesn't matter. I get to live in Australia. It's all good.
Absolutely. And Ankita, I see you've got your
can we
hand
just
up.
give it to Ankita? Yeah.
Yes, I was just going to ask you had a question or.
Yeah, no, I think if Susie's still there on the call, if we can give her, unmute her, because I think she had a question which I wasn't able to answer.
Okay.
She's unmuted, but I don't know if Susie, if you joined via the browser, if you have, sometimes that doesn't allow you to physically speak to us. You have to join via the client through Zoom. So you may have to, we might have to follow offline.
She has posted a question with that comment relating to regenerating. Does it prompt you to do that or let you know you can, or you just have to click on it to do it? Example
This
for
is
Copilot.
regenerating the resolution notes, right?
I think so, yes. I wanted her to clarify if that's what she means, but yeah.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
We can. Hello.
There you go. I am on the web and the web worked, so that's nice. And that's exactly what I was talking about. We just kind of went over that really, really quickly, that you can ask it to regenerate. But does it let you know you can do that, or do you just have to hit it again to regenerate the comment in the resolution notes?
Yeah, that's a great question.
yeah,
So I think, sorry, John, go ahead.
That wasn't me.
No, Harshad, go ahead.
Yep.
Harshad.
No, so I think the answer to that is you have to click on it for it to regenerate that, right? But then the ability for it to regenerate is documented in our documentation. If not, we'll have a look at that. So, and then of course, when you click on the Select GPT tab, as I think Sumit showed, you can regenerate the questions based on additional input that you now have from your first.
maybe just a roadmap item. Like sometimes people don't know, and they definitely don't go off and read documentation, but having it say you can regenerate would be a great one. But
Absolutely.
that's still
Yep.
excellent.
Yep.
It's just a matter
So
of
it's like
end
draft,
users don't
Susie.
necessarily do it. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll take that
It's like
feedback.
a draft version. It's getting displayed when you click first time. And
Yeah.
because there is so much of content in work notes, okay, so sometime maybe AI hasn't considered anything. You feel that it could be better, so you can click again, ask GPT. Okay, what it does actually on the background, it submits the current content, last content, which returned from the AI, and ask AI to please improvise this and just see if any corner left in any work note. So
Yeah,
it's that kind of mechanism.
I think
It's
you
Yeah,
need
not
to take
I get it.
regenerate.
I think it's
It's
great.
like
I think it's great.
yeah,
It's
so,
just a matter of
yeah,
letting them know that they can do that, because otherwise they'll just go, oh, that doesn't give me what I
yeah,
want,
yeah.
and away
Yeah.
they go.
And we have to
Yeah,
remember, of
just
course,
suggestion.
not just service desk agents who haven't necessarily got as much experience with the tool as
Yeah.
we BMC long termers have. So it's we'll take that on board, because obviously making things as intuitive as possible for people in that service environment means they don't have to remember, they don't need someone to tell them that it's there, they just realize. So yeah, it's a great bit of feedback. Thank you.
Great feedback. Thanks, Susie.